Ever wondered what would happen if you gave a sword to a doggo, put a headband on it for some extra style points, and then sent it into battle with some fat cat cheering it on from the sideline? Well, the answer is Zacian EX, and it's about to rewrite the Pokémon TCG meta. Again. But the craziest part is that every single player is going to get this deck for free just by logging into PTCGL when the new Battle Pass launches for Journey Together on March 26th. It's completely free, there's no catch, you're going to get a competitive level deck right out of the gate, and we'll be going over how you can upgrade it to win more games. So whether you're brand new to the game or a veteran just looking for your next deck, stay tuned because by the end of this video you'll have a solid understanding of Zacian and 4 powerful ways you can upgrade it for free so that you can have a solid deck to go even further. Now, some of you may still have PTSD from when Zacian V ruled over the Sword and Shield era. It dominated the game by setting up quickly and swinging for massive KOs, even taking extra prizes when it did it thanks to a cheeky trio of gods that backed it up. But this time around, he's forsaken the gods to become a sheepdog. For Hop of all people. And I'm not even going to pretend to know why that's happened, but the deck's still just as fast, flexible, and surprisingly strong. Zacian isn't going to waste any time when it comes to its attacks, as Instant Slash costs just 1 energy, it's going to do 30 damage to the active and then something on the bench as well. Sure, 30 damage isn't mind-blowing, but with the right setup you can use this for free and pump up those numbers from anywhere between 60 to 120. But we'll get into that in just a second. The attack's great to set up chip damage and can potentially take out pre-evolution Pokemon before they even have a chance to get online. Not to mention, if you ever see a Budu on your opponent's board, it's effectively just a free prize. You can do 30 to it when it's in the active, or you can bounce it to the bench, hit something in the active a little bit harder, and still do that 30 to the bench Budu and get an easy prize. Then there's the second attack, Brave Slash. This helps you deal with larger targets, as you're going to do 240 damage for 3 steel and 1 colorless energy. Unfortunately, you can't use this attack the following turn, unless you've got ways to kind of pivot it out of the active to remove that effect. With simple switch cards and a little trick with Latias EX, you can easily bypass that limitation though, to keep being aggressive going into another Zacian, or even just double switch back into the same one and swing again. Both the attacks are interesting, as the first can help set up KOs for the second attack to finish off, or you can just use the second attack to one-shot basic EXs with ease. But I did say you could easily pump up that damage to deal with larger targets, and thanks to all of Hop's support cards, yeah, you can do that pretty easy. There's Hop's Choice Band, want to do 30 more damage and pay 1 less colorless energy for your attacks? Yeah, sign me up. Instant Slash is now free to use and hits for 60 damage. That's KO range for most pre-evolution Pokemon and means more chip damage into the active if it's a larger target. Brave Slash is also just going to cost 3 steel energy now and do 270 damage to one-shot Stage 1 EX Pokemon like Goldango. There's also Hop's Snorlax and the Stadium Postwick, which both add 30 more damage to Hop's Pokemon's attacks, so all of a sudden Instant Slash is doing up to 120 damage for 0 energy, and Brave Slash is doing 330, letting you one-shot Stage 2 EXs without even breaking a sweat. It's rare to see this level of scaling on a basic Pokemon without needing to discard a bunch of energy. But while we don't have to discard those 3 steel energy off of Zacian, we do still need a way to actually get them into play, and that's where Archaludon EX comes in. Its ability attaches 2 steel energy from the discard pile to any of your steel Pokemon in play when you evolve it up. Pair this with Professor Turo and you've got an easy way to loop energy into play and reset your Pokemon after taking a hit. But Archaludon isn't just an energy engine, it's also a pretty heavy hitter in its own right, doing a solid 220 damage while being able to tank a hit thanks to its bulky 300 HP. And Archaludon isn't the only secondary attacker in the deck though, as you're also getting Hop's Cramorant. Its attack does 120 damage for just 1 colorless energy, and since it's also one of Hop's Pokemon, you can scale that damage up the same way we did with Zacian, getting it up to 240 for 0 energy. So yeah, you can be one-shotting basic EXs with Cramorant, or cleaning up KOs that Zacian may have been setting up with Instant Slash. The downside of the attack is you can only use it if your opponent is on exactly 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, so it's great for in the mid-game, but outside of that, it's not too ideal. It is perfect though for after a Zacian gets knocked out, right? Your opponent takes 2 prizes, they're down to 4 remaining, you just promote a Cramorant, you can start swinging with it, and then when they knock that out, it's also skewing the prize trade, because they're just getting 1 prize off that, they go down to 3 remaining, you could just go into another Cramorant, or effectively make your opponent play a 7 prize game, because they have to take out that Cramorant and ideally 3 Zacians along with it. Now let's talk about the real twist in the PTCGL version of this deck. Hop's Dubwall. When you evolve up into it, you get a free gust effect, pulling up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and slotting them into the active spot, without even burning your supporter for turn. That means you're free to use cards like Professor Turo to reset your Pokemon, or draw supporters like Iono and Research to help you find key pieces from your deck. Dubwall isn't the only card freeing up your supporter for turn though, as the deck also runs Scoop Up Cyclone as the ace spec. So you've got another trick up your sleeve, essentially getting you the effect of Professor Turo, but off an item card. This works a bit different to Turo though, as it's going to bring all attached cards back to your hand with it, so there's no discarded energy for Archaludon to reset, but you also won't be losing tools like Hop's Choice Band off of Zacian if you decide to scoop that up. So it's got its pros and cons. So yeah, for a free deck, this thing's kinda cracked. It gives you a 3/3 Archaludon line, which is already a solid deck in and of itself, so you can even just take that and run with it. You're gonna get 3 Zacians, which are new cards out of the set and seem like they're highly meta competitive, so yeah, that's a big plus. Not to mention all the cards to boost up its damage output, and even a large number of staple cards helping brand new players to the game build their collections and help them make more decks. Like a free Zacian EX, yeah, it's pretty nuts. Now, once you've tested out this base deck, or maybe you kind of just like the idea of it, but you do want to just start out with something a little bit more powerful, well, here's some decks you can upgrade this into. You can stick with the Archaludon core concept that PTCGL is going to give you, then push it a little bit further, keeping things clean and consistent while building on what the free deck already wants to do. This build adds in Blood Moon Ursaluna EX as a late game attacking option for those times when you may not have an Archaludon online to get energy into play. It's also got Latias to easily pivot your Zacian from the active to reset it after using a Brave Slash, and the build also bumps up the counts of Turo to add a little bit more reliability to reset your Archaludons. It's also going to cut the double Gust package in favor of higher counts of other Gust cards like Boss's Orders, Iron Bundle, Counter Catcher, and you're going to switch out the Ace spec to Prime Catcher, so you still have a way to Gust without using your supporter for turn, but you aren't as dependent on having Wooloos on your bench that are ready to evolve up at any point, because if you're dependent on like, hey, I need to evolve this into double, and you get hit with an Iono, and then you don't have an out to the double anymore, well, you're gonna have a bad time. Prime Catcher also provides another switch out option to reset your Zacian's Brave Slash attack. This next build lets you lean into Archaludon as an attacker a little bit more by including Relicanth, giving you access to the attacks of your Pokemon's pre-evolutions. So Archaludon can use Duraludon's attack Raging Hammer, which starts at a base damage of 80, then scales up by 10 damage for every damage counter on it. So after your Archaludon tanks a hit, you can just bounce all that damage back to the opponent, but do it a little bit harder. This list also includes a 1/1 Revroom line for some added draw power. You're going to discard an energy from your hand to get into a 6-card hand, but Archaludon wants energy in the bin, so it's pretty solid. We also have Squawkabilly and Carmine to give you more access to draw options on the first turn of the game, since you're going to want to go first with this deck and evolve your Archaludons as quickly as possible. So you have Squawkabilly to discard your hand, get 6 more, and Carmine to discard your hand, get 5 more, getting your energy in the bin and making sure you're finding the key pieces you need while establishing your bench. And since there's so much discarding draw power in this deck, we do also have a Pal Pad to help you recover any supporters that may end up in the bin a little earlier than you want them there. Next up is a little bit of monkey business, as we're going to be running this with Monkey Dory and focusing more on Zacian's first attack, Instant Slash. There's no steal energy or ways to accelerate energy in this deck. We only have basic dark energy as a means to pay for attacks if needed, and mostly just to attach to Monkey Dory to be able to use Adrena Brain. We're going to be doing little bits of damage to the opponent, slowly weakening down their board with bench damage, as well as having the Monkey Dory to just hand off damage counters from our side of the board over to the opponent's. And since we aren't necessarily going to be tanking hits with Zacian always, right? He's got a decent bit of HP, but nothing too crazy. We also include Frostlass in here. It's going to damage all Pokemon in play that have abilities, so it can be softening up the opponent's board while also damaging our Monkey Dories that are in play, and then they just hand off the damage counters over to the opponent. This build works best against evolution decks, as the game plan is going to be to set up enough damage on our opponent's board that if we use Devo TM, it just knocks everything out in one fell swoop. Like Charizard, it's got 330 HP. Charmander's only got 70, so we use Monkey Dory and yeah, get 7 damage counters on there. It's going to go down. There's also Cramorant and Ursaluna in here as secondary attackers though, so we aren't fully dependent on the Devo plays in the mid to late game if need be, so maybe you go a little bit aggressive in the early game and then Devo them down, or even just Cram and Ursaluna to finish something off in the late game, or against decks like Raging Bolt. And for ways to buy a little bit more time with this deck though, while we're trying to wear them down with Monkey Dory damage counters and Frostlass shenanigans, we also have Budu to help item lock them. This can be great to shut down rare candies in the early game, because maybe they just never even evolve up. We don't even have to worry about using Devo TM. It also means that we could gust something into the active that has high retreat cost and can't attack, and then we item lock them and they can't switch out of the active. So yeah, they're going to be having a hard time or having to manually attach energy on that to hard retreat it, which may make it a very difficult time for your opponent. Then there's also Maractus, though, to kind of do the opposite of the Budu, as it's going to lock the opponent's Pokemon in the active and say that they can't hard retreat. So if you notice that all their switch cards have ended up in the discard pile already, you just go into Maractus, you go, okay, I'm going to gust up that, like, Squawkabilly or something like that. Squawkabilly, Pheasantipity, they're all great targets. Bring them in the active. They can technically attack, but it's going to be a while before they're doing anything, and then Maractus just goes, you're not going anywhere unless you literally have a switch card to get out of the active. So, yeah, it's a good way to buy yourself some time while Frostlass and Monkey Dory just kind of chip away at their bench. Now, this final list is more about high-rolling energy, as you're going to be running it with Metang. So it's a little bit of a Hail Mary concept when compared to the others, which are highly focused in what they want to do, as they're just getting energy from the discard into play, or just not even needing energy to attack to play. You're going to be relying on Metang finding you energy off the top 4 cards of your deck, then accelerating that out onto your Zacians that are in play to use Brave Slash continuously. As Metang's ability is repeatable turn after turn, the idea is to get 2 Zacians charged up at one time, so after they attack, you can just retreat into a new Zacian. We do have Latias to remove the retreat cost on them, so you're never having to reset that energy ideally. And with all of the damage modifiers in play, you can do 330 damage to one-shot Stage 2 EX Pokemon. So like into Dragapult, you can just be taking them down. Into Charizard. In the early game, they're not able to one-shot you, but you're going to be able to one-shot them. It's definitely an interesting concept. Each of these builds takes the foundation of the free PTCGL list and levels it up, to give you more control, consistency, or aggression depending on your playstyle. Of these builds, which one speaks to you though? Or are you cooking up a completely different take? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. It's a great way to let me know, and subscribe to keep up with the shenanigans. These things help the channel grow more than you may realize, and it also helps to keep Zacian from chewing up all my cards. If you want to try these decks for yourselves though, check the description for links to the lists over on Limitless, where you can even print out proxies of the cards to get testing early before Journey Together hits store shelves. Till next time though, stay golden you Goombas.